About that time, so this time I'll call the meeting of the Madison County Fiscal Court to order. Kenny?
Master King.
Here.
Master Barger.
Here.
Master Hughes.
Here.
Master Combs.
Here.
Judge Clark.
Here. You all have had a chance to look at the minutes of the last meeting. If there are no changes or discussion, a motion would be in order to approve those as submitted in your packets.
So moved.
Second.
Master King.
Yes.
Master Barger.
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. And treasurer's report, that'll be the fourth Tuesday of this month. We're going to order of business, and first, looks like a little lengthy agenda, but we're lucky to have our community liaison, Craig Williams, here, and a lot of things going on out at the D-Mill facility, and Craig's staying on top of each and every one of them, working very well with Doug and Jeff, and Craig's here from a long trip overseas. Craig, we're glad you made the meeting, and I'll just kind of turn it over to you.
Great, I appreciate that. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Still a little jet lag, but not too bad.
When'd you get back?
Got back Saturday night, late. And I didn't get over it until Thursday, so by the time I landed, it was almost time to come back. I had 2 days there and then back. I didn't even get a chance to adjust to the time frame, so I was sleeping at all the wrong times. But I'm back in the saddle now. Thanks for having me now. It's been 2 quarters since I briefed you all, so there's a lot to go over, but I'm going to try to be as brief as I can. Feel free. I think it'd be better to ask, if you have questions about a certain topic that I'm covering, to ask me then rather than keep it to the end or whatever you prefer. But we can go either way. We're going to try to cover these topics today, and as the judge said, there's been a lot going on since February when I was last here. We're going to start with the funding. The good news is, if you look at your packets or on the screen and you notice the bottom underlined and bolded sections of the defense authorization bill for 2014, you'll notice that the $604 million will be available, and of that, $584 million is available for the Assembled Chemical Weapons Alternatives Program, which is the program under which this facility is being constructed. Part of that will go to Pueblo, and part of that will come here. But the important thing is that that is the amount of money that the Aqua program requested in the president's budget. That number has stayed in the budget, as has the monies associated with, specifically with construction. There are 2 types of monies that come into this program. One is military construction and the other is research and development. And between the 2 numbers, they're both on target for what was requested. Now, of course, it's up to the Congress, assuming that they pass a defense bill, as to whether or not that number will hold and be funded. As of yesterday, the Budget Committee discussions between the House and Senate appear to be moving forward in a positive way, and it doesn't look like sequestration is going to have an impact on the 2014 defense budget. And I emphasize the word appear, because every day is a new adventure down in Washington. So you just never know what might happen, but everything is tracking in a positive direction. The status of the site right now, 75% complete with construction. Systemization is 12% complete. You can see the employment numbers there. Of the 1,354 people working on the project, 1,348 of them are here in Richmond, which is a tremendous asset for the employment and for the tax base and everybody else in the region. 59% of those folks are local hires, and by local we're talking about the Bluegrass Area Development District generally. And safety has always been a high priority, and Doug may want to say a few words about that, but they're well below the industry average for lost time accidents, well below, 95% in fact. There's a picture of the site, the most recent photo. I believe that's from November, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little more recent than that. And you can see that the air, for those of you that were out there not too long ago, you can see that there's been a tremendous expansion of the footprint since you were there, particularly the areas on the lower left right in here. These are the carbon filter banks that will filter all of the air that comes out of the facility, out of those large vents. And those have just been placed in the last 6 or 8 months, I'd say. And then here's a couple of the stacks that are going to be placed at the very end of those carbon filter banks. So the project is moving along quite nicely. I'm not really sure if this weather has impacted anything. Jeff can speak to that perhaps. But you can see that there's been a great deal of progress. So that's the status of the DMIL plant as far as funding, employment, and a current view of the construction site. The Bluegrass Chemical activity is going to be undertaking a rocket separation activity shortly. And you can see the reason is to validate the stability of the propellants in the rockets. So they're going to take apart 44 M55 rockets that are randomly sampled from the igloos. They're going to take them apart. They'll take the agent-containing portion of the rocket, overpack it, and put it in the overpack igloo. And the propellant section will be shipped back to Picatinny Arsenal in New Jersey to do an analysis of the stability of the propellant, just to make sure that everybody knows what kind of condition that's in prior to the rockets being moved over to the processing facility. They did this back in the 80s. The Chemical Materials Agency, which now has a different name, I think. They keep changing the name, but the same outfit that was the Chemical Materials Agency that oversaw the chemical activity has requested that this be done as a safety precaution. I won't go through all of this. You can read it in your packet. This explains the process by which it'll take place and the timeline around which this rocket separation will occur. And you can see here that the operations are scheduled to begin in March 2014. They will take an existing igloo inside the chemical area and modify it to accommodate this mission. And Chris Grice, the commander out there, and the CAC and CDCAB, Secondary Waste Working Group, and other working groups within the advisory board have been engaged in this for ever since the directive came down. And as with everything else, the communication has been very good. And everybody's confident that this can be done safely and efficiently and with environmental protections. And so, once again, it's a credit to the workforce within the CLA that they're going to undertake this mission. The next issue is the explosive destruction technology. Many of you have been hearing about this for quite a while. We've been having discussions on this probably for 3 years or so. Again, Aqua, in the persona of Jeff and his staff, have been very engaged with the community on this, with the advisory board, the governor's commission, and so on. You see the background there. I mean, the bottom line is the mustard rounds are too dangerous to have the bursters taken out by the workforce by hand, and they're gelled to a point and have other problems with them that it's impossible to safely extract the bursters prior to being processed in the main plant. So as an alternative to that, and based on the x-rays that have taken place of these rounds, they're going to be processed in an EDT, or explosive destruction technology. The current status on that is that on November 12th, Bechtel Parsons Bluegrass, and the program manager for that, Doug Omachinsky, is here with us if you have additional questions. They made the selection of an SDC, static detonation chamber, to use here of the options that were available for these systems. It's manufactured by UXB Corporation. It was used in Anniston, Alabama. I don't remember how many rounds they did, but it was several thousand, if I'm not mistaken. 2,700, says our froggy Aquaman. Jeff's under the weather, and I appreciate him coming in spite of that. So it has a real history of use and successful use down in Alabama. And in fact, tomorrow at the advisory board meeting, The program manager for that facility who deployed this will be here to present to the advisory board more information on their experience down there.
Is that just a stainless steel vessel they bring in to do that?
It is, and I'll show you a picture of it here in a minute, okay? The way it works, and again, I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'm going to let you all read it for yourselves, and if there's people in the audience that want a copy, they can just contact me, and I can send them one electronically. But basically, as Larry said, it's a steel vessel that looks like that. And what happens is the round is fed into the top and it falls down into the vessel, and down at the bottom there are heated pieces of metal that have already been heated up. The round deflacates or explodes depending on how the round reacts in that heated environment, and the agent and explosive is destroyed through pyrolysis, which is a heat environment without oxygen. So it's not combustion, it's not incineration, but it's a heat-induced destruction without oxygen present. And here's just a kind of a cutaway. The round would be fed into the top, and there's all sorts of different feed gates and things here that open up, let the round come in, and then they close behind it before it drops in and so on. And it goes down, it falls down into this scrap bed that's heated up, and that makes the round explode or deflagrate. And then the agent material is destroyed, and then the effluent goes out through a very sophisticated pollution abatement system or off-gas treatment system. And you can see here there's double and triple walls that surround the vessel itself. It's electrically heated, and it has airspace in it to insulate the chamber from the exterior. Down in Anniston, this is what it looked like in the structure they put it in, and we'll be doing the same thing here. This entire area is all negatively pressurized, which means air comes in and moves away from any places where there might be agent contamination, and then goes through a very robust pollution abatement system. And in fact, they've added additional filtration into this system before it's deployed here, which is something that was very welcomed by myself and the rest of the advisory board. Here's what the unit looks like when it's set up. This is not inside that structure that you just saw, but this is, I assume, at one of their facilities someplace. But this is basically what it'll look like. And there's the chamber there. The rest of this material, as you can see, is venting for gases, and then there's a feed operation that comes in here and drops the round into the chamber. As I said, we've been involved in the discussions about this for several years. There was an extensive environmental process that occurred that included an environmental assessment, a finding of no significant impact environmentally, as well as at least one or maybe more special public meetings to make sure that any questions that were submitted during the comment period were adequately addressed for the public about how this system works, its environmental worker protection, and safety issues, and so on. And again, Aqua has gone beyond what's necessary under the regulations, both federal and state, in order to reassure the community that this is an appropriate and safe method. So we're confident. We're going to move forward with it. The next step will be they have to submit an application to the state to get a permit to operate this equipment, and then there will be a comment period surrounding that process. So it's going to be a little while before we can get through all the hoops, and I'm assuming that we will. I have not heard anyone articulate any objections to moving forward with this, so I think we're on the right track. So that's EDT. Economic impact study. September 4th, we released phase 1 of the study. Many of you read about it in the paper. It was a great joint effort between ourselves and the Bluegrass Ad and the Workforce Investment Board, the Economic Development Cabinet in Frankfurt, and others. And some of the highlights that were found, in addition to all of the statistics in the report, were obvious. It's going to have a significant impact. It has a great positive potential. And the efforts that are being undertaken to keep as much of the workforce here as possible and to possibly reuse the infrastructure there are important. I want to clarify that many of the workers out there work for Bechtel, and they will not be, on the last day of operations or something, they won't be unemployed. They'll move on to another Bechtel assignment someplace. So we're not sure exactly how many of the 1,380 projected workers that are there will actually be looking for work here locally. But we hope to have a good handle on that as time moves along so that we can be prepared to try to keep them here, either at a reuse for that infrastructure or spread them out into the industrial operations that already exist here in the county and the region. Phase 2 explains what we're going to do in Phase 2 of the study and Phase 3 if we can get the money to do those 2 phases. We got the grant for the first phase from the Workforce Investment Board, and that was just some residual funds that the Federal Department of Labor had at year's end, which is why we were able to get that. We're not counting on getting that again, but we do have Andy Barr and Mitch McConnell's office are both working on identifying alternative sources for funding of phases 2 and 3. And we're also working with the Federal Office of Economic Adjustment to see if we can get a grant from them to proceed with these 2 phases. We should have an application in front of them in the spring. So there's hope that by the end of the spring or summer, we may have the funds necessary to initiate Phase 2 of the economic development study. This was the press conference that we had releasing Phase 1. Congressman Barr was there. As you can see, Senator McConnell's representative was there as well, and David Duttlinger, the new director of the Bluegrass Area Development District. There's David Binge, who's the co-chair with myself of the Economic Development Working Group on this project. There's somebody over there you might recognize. The judge was there, and it was a good event all around. The report's been very well received. It was a great coordinated effort, and so now this is what we're trying to do now that we have that report in hand.
Let me interrupt. Why don't you bring the court up to date on roughly how much funding we need for Phase 2 and Phase 3?
Yeah, we use $120,000 to do Phase 1, and we're looking at $550,000 to do Phases 2 and 3. Incrementally, it's almost 200 for the second phase and 300 and some odd for the third phase. An interesting fact that developed here recently was the cost it takes to tear these facilities down at other locations where their mission is completed. And for example, the Alabama site is predicted to be, I think it was $150 million to tear that site down. And we're asking for about $750,000 to figure out what to do with the site rather than tear it down. So the government stands to save a significant amount of money if they fund us to figure out what to do with it rather than tear it down. $100 and some odd million they'll save. So it's a very good investment for them to fund us to look at ways to keep using the facility out there rather than to spend all that money to tear it down. So that's one of the more recent arguments we're using when we go to the Defense Department and ask them to fund these studies. Because we don't.
There wouldn't be no opportunity to ship more in here to use it there, would there?
Not any more of this stuff, and we hope not any more of anything else. The way it stands now, Larry, is the Army's position is that any building that has been exposed to agent, which would be the main disposal building itself, would be raised. All the equipment would be gone. So what you'd wind up with would be the footprint, all of the utilities and so on, and all of these support buildings that supported that operation. So you wouldn't have a hazardous waste treatment capacity there. What you would have, some people have termed it, is a mini industrial opportunity for somebody to come in and take advantage of the electric, the gas, the road access, the support buildings, and alike that are already there and left over after the munitions disposal building has been torn down.
Okay.
So that's the current thinking.
And Larry, an interesting point about this is, and it was brought up, we've had some meetings at the ad and had representatives of the depot, and Jeff's been there and Doug O, is you have to look, and doing this study, we can find out exactly what people are looking for, because, we wouldn't want to keep this site. It'll go to the state first, and then the state would come into the cities and the county on a partnership. But a company come in and want to build their own building because of the infrastructure and the entrance, the proximity to I-75, and then bear the cost of the three governments of tearing these buildings down. And that's one important part of the study, is to see, when we get closer to it, looking at industries, looking at businesses that might be interested in the site that might not want the current buildings. They'd want to come in and build their own. So we want to take advantage of the money that's set aside in the budget to go on and let them take them all out for us instead of putting that burden on us.
Yeah, it remains to be seen how that's all going to work out, but that's why we're doing the study.
The study's very important.
I understand. Really, I guess I probably didn't. Well, you answered it, but I wouldn't want that left there and say, well, and the government says, well, this is going to cost this to take down if we leave it and then bring more in. That was my only question.
I don't think there's anybody wants that.
All right, you answered.
And I think, well, we know there'll be no chemical weapons coming in because they'll be all gone in the whole country. The application of what's out there for industrial hazardous waste is not a good fit, first of all. Secondly, I can almost guarantee, that all of the process equipment will be gone. And that I can almost guarantee that the actual building where agent has wafted into the building itself, that will be gone. But what's left is going to be a remarkable opportunity for somebody. And what we'd like to have at the end of the day is a marketing package that says, here's everything that's going to be there. Wouldn't you, whoever, General Atomics or somebody, wouldn't you like to come and locate here since you've already been part of this project? You're familiar with the community. You got a real opportunity to get probably a good deal on some real good infrastructure. Why don't you come and locate here? And then, like the judge said, they could do what they want with it, with the infrastructure. But it's a $5.4 billion project, and at the end of the day, they predict that what's left after they tear that MDB down will be worth about $1.4 billion. And it's almost like, what do they call it? Ready to move in or something. If you're selling a house, you tell them it's ready to move in, huh? Right? So it's kind of like that. So we're hopeful that we can get funded for that. Now, the first phase of the study, you can go online and find it right there. And like I said, everyone that's read it, that's associated with economic development in almost any strata, has been very impressed with the first phase. And now that we've got that first phase in our hand, our chances of getting the Defense Department to fund the next two phases are increased because we've actually produced a product on our own that's very professional, and everybody that's read it has given it high marks. So we're using that also as a tool to try and get them to fund the next two phases. So that's the economic development piece. This one I'm going to whip through real quick. As you know, I just got back from The Hague from the Chemical Weapons Convention, the 18th Conference of State Parties. And a big development has been Syria's joining of the treaty. And so the reason they asked me to come over there is to talk about neutralization, because that's the treatment process we're using. We used it here in the United States at Newport and in Maryland, and we're going to use it here. We're going to use it in Colorado. And that's the proposed treatment process for the Syrian chemical weapons. They also wanted to have me discuss with folks over there the process that was used to get approval or buy-in, if you will, from communities and from regions and from states on treating this stuff in their community. They tried to, actually, the OPCW, which just won the Nobel Peace Prize a couple of weeks ago, they tried to make an arrangement with the Albanian government to take this material and treat it there. But what they forgot to do is tell the people about it. So they made this arrangement with the government to bring this stuff, the Syrian chemical weapons, they're not weapons, the Syrian chemical agents, into Albania and treat it. But then when the public found out about it, guess what? All right? All of a sudden, there was tens of thousands of people in the street protesting the fact that they were going to bring this stuff into their country without telling anybody. The government finally changed their mind and went about their business, and now they had to figure out an alternative. And we've got a lot of experience with dealing with community acceptance and transparency and education for people about these kinds of issues. So they had me over there talking about that with a bunch of different representatives from different countries and so on. Here's the schedule. It's a very ambitious schedule that they have. All the chemicals are supposed to be removed from Syria by the end of this month. Now, I got to tell you, the biggest challenge I see is getting that material from where it's stored up near homes and down through a civil war to a port someplace to get it shipped out of the country, because it's not a very friendly environment, as you might. And here's the different stages of what has to be done under the schedule. Syria is going to destroy some of their own stuff and so on. Now, there's no weapons involved in this. It's all liquid agents. So we don't have to worry about things like this. That was a round that was the chemicals were put into, and then it was launched. But there's none of these weapons. There's no explosives, which makes the treatment a lot easier. This is what they're going to use to treat it. This is a neutralization reactor, just like the one you all have seen out there at Bluegrass. One of the differences is they're going to put it on a boat. At least this is the current plan. Now, nobody's quite sure if this is going to be approved or finalized, but the United States is currently retrofitting this ship to put that neutralization facility apparatus on the ship with storage containers below ship and bring that material to this ship out in the middle of the Mediterranean, neutralize the agent, and put the hydrolysate down in those tanks below deck. Then the next question is, what do you do with all of that residue? Because for every pound of agent that you treat, you're going to have 4 pounds of hazardous waste produced from the neutralization process. They don't have a SQO unit on the boat, so what are you going to do with it? Well, that's one of the issues that remain. So that's basically it. There I am in front of the OPCW in The Hague, and this is why they had me come over there. They're anticipating that there will be some challenges, not only to the schedule for destruction, but also for the what do you do with the residue. There's 1,000 tons of chemical agent that are going to be neutralized. It's going to result in approximately 4,000 tons of hydrolysate, very toxic material that's going to be stored below decks on that ship. What do you do with it? Well, that's what they want us to help them figure out, that if they're going to bring it to XYZ. I didn't invite them to bring it to Kentucky, by the way, and use our SQO unit. Somebody did ask me that, well, why don't you just bring it there, because you got the ability to treat the secondary waste, and I declined.
The answer, or?
No, I declined to speak on behalf of anybody wanting that stuff. So that's kind of where we're at on that, and that was the reason I was over there. I just thought I'd kind of bring you up to speed on what was going on with the treaty. As far as we're concerned, we're in compliance with the treaty now under the new directive, which says we have to get rid of this stuff as soon as possible. It doesn't have a deadline in it anymore, and we're moving in that direction very visibly. And everyone, including the Iranians, who are never satisfied with anything we do, even they are recognizing that we're making such great progress here in Kentucky and in Colorado that nobody's challenging our objective to get rid of this stuff. So that's it. Thanks for your attention. I know it was a lot of information.
Craig, while you're Jeff, could I get you and Doug to come up maybe just give us an update on how everything's going. I know Craig mentioned some of it. If you feel like talking,
Just going to lead us in a Christmas carol.
just, it's so important. People don't realize the progress y'all are making out there.
I'm going to start, and then I'm going to let Doug add on, because my voice is a little taxed this morning. One of the points that Craig mentioned in his briefing on status was the fact that construction of the main facility is at 75% complete. There's going to be a news release that goes out later today to that effect, so you'll see that information shortly. This year, 2013, has been a tremendous year of progress. We now have the 4 major process support buildings completely enclosed. So most of what remains to be done in those buildings is piping and electrical installation, followed by turnover to what we call the startup group. That's the group that will take the plant into the systemization or the testing phase. For EDT, Craig mentioned that that applies only to the mustard projectiles. There are about 15,000 mustard projectiles that will be processed through the EDT. Current efforts are working the development of the environmental permits, as well as working with the subcontractor to complete some of the initial design efforts for that part of the project. So things continue to go well. Staffing numbers are higher than we've ever seen before. We'll hire for construction between now and early 2014. We'll continue to ramp up, particularly on the back shift of construction. So our numbers should go north of 1,400 over the next couple of months. So all indications are things are going well. And I'm going to let Doug handle the rest.
Thanks, Jeff. 2 questions I think that Craig threw our way are safety. Safety this year, the statistics are lower than last year, so we've been able to lower our recordable rate and our lost time rate while we're ramping up to the 1,000 craft that we do have on site, so that's very positive. Unfortunately, we did have 19 recordables this year and 2 lost times, so we are still driving that safety culture back to our goal of 0. Does the weather affect us? No. Being enclosed now, we're able to do most of our work inside. We do have a very small portion of concrete work to still do, mostly around our standby diesel generators, but that's going well within the enclosures. Our systemization team, like Jeff mentioned, is making a lot of progress. The 12% translates into about 65% complete on development of our procedures and processes to operate the facility, which is where we want to be. We're at about 5% in component testing and energization of equipment. So things are going well, and we're going to continue to ramp up with our craft on the electrical mechanical side, and you'll start to see us ramp down on our civil side with our steel and our concrete crews.
Do you have any questions for the 3 experts while we've got them here together?
Back up for each phase, a backup, in case this didn't happen. I'm sure you all got backups for everything.
We have plan A, B, C, D, E. So we have a very detailed schedule that we work to. If something occurs within that schedule, which this is a first-of-a-kind project, so we do run into first-of-a-kind problems and challenges. So we were able to adjust the schedule and be able to work around for the most part.
Are you nervous or excited?
Oh, I'm excited.
Thank you.
I don't have the accent yet, but I'm excited.
It'll come.
I just want to say that Doug comes to us. He's been here. How long you been with us, Doug? 7 months. He comes from the Pueblo site, where he worked out there for a number of years, got them through their final construction phase and up into systemization. So he's no rookie when it comes to this stuff. And finally, just one of the things Kentucky is noted for in this whole chemical weapons disposal world is our interaction with the military and with the contractors. That's why we're talked about over in The Hague and elsewhere as the representative of how to get things done in a cooperative manner. And I'm always very proud either to be interviewed by somebody or to be asked to go and participate in something and to represent what's happened in this community over the years. We've gone from screaming at each other 20 years ago to working hand in glove with each other now on every aspect of this. And so I just, on behalf of the advisory board that I co-chair with Kent and the CAC that I sit on, you know, it's just been a great transition and a great learning process. And I think the motto is no surprises. And if there's no surprises, then there's no lawsuits and there's nobody screaming at each other. And we don't have another meeting with them till 2 o'clock this afternoon. So that's representative of where we're at. So
Give you time to have dinner.
okay, so that's all I got.
Craig, we appreciate it. And
Thank you all.
Doug, Jeff, thank you all for taking time out of your schedules. And you're welcome to leave. We've got a pretty lengthy agenda, and I know you all have got plenty to do. But again, thanks on behalf of the court for you all taking the time to come in. It's always great to get an update like this, and that's an excellent report, Craig.
Thanks, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you very much.
And next, we are very fortunate to have our beloved golf pro, Clay Hamrick, here. And Clay, as he never stops doing what's right for the golf course, he has been spending a lot of time putting together some new leases to not only save money, but to make it a more efficient operation. And he's going to hand these out, and then Clay's going to go over them with you. And welcome to ask any questions you might, and then we'll talk about the lease once he explains it to you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. We are very fortunate to have this weather pattern at this point in time when our business is driven by outdoor activity. So you can imagine my disposition regarding the weather. And it has been consistent throughout this year, so we want to understand that. I have two items of business this morning, but first thing we're going to take a look at is the overview that I have given you all on our maintenance equipment lease. In 2014, our current lease that is being used to maintain the golf course will expire. The equipment that is being used to maintain the course has been essential to our productivity. We have experienced growth since 2007 in a very stagnant market as far as the economy is concerned, and we have been one of the only golf courses in our market to do that. We have maintained steady growth throughout the past 7 years, and I have to say it is directly related to our golf course conditions and the efforts we've made there. And our equipment has been the primary vehicle in which we have been able to do that, along with a lot of very hard work by our staff. Attached is our quotation for the proposed lease agreement with 2014 equipment listings. That's on your back page of the handout I just gave you. This lease agreement will be written for the next 6 years at the pricing listed on a 6-month payment schedule issued May to October of each calendar year. The terms of the lease are based on the current pricing of the equipment listed and a fair market value determination will be made at the expiration of the lease agreement at the end of the 6th year. Now, I do need to speak about the financing that's been available briefly. As you know, in our market these days, financing has been a challenge. Well, not for us. Wells Fargo has come forward and offered to finance our lease agreement again due to the consistency of our payment schedule and what we've been able to accomplish over the last 7 years. And I will say this, the fair market value leasing structure is the leasing structure that has been available to most golf facilities these days due to the fact that most financing institutions are not using balloon payments anymore. dollar buyouts, things of that nature, due to the climate of the economy. And we all know the economy is getting a little better, but still, as far as the financing arm of the economic structure these days, fair market value leases are what's being written. And I do want to touch on one of the reasons why we're trying to move this lease agreement forward now. The golf industry faces a price increase issued by the EPA on all diesel fuel products called Tier 4 compliance. This increase will affect engines ranging from 25 to 75 horsepower, which is virtually our entire maintenance fleet. This compliance will be required by all companies sometime in 2014. We know it's going to happen in 2014, we just don't know when. And our lease agreement will actually expire in 2014. It is a cost that's going to be passed on to all consumers. As you all know, in order for companies to stay in business, the consumers get to eat the increases. So this is no exception. Our partner, Jacobson Turf, and its subsidiary, Wolf Creek Company, have given us an opportunity to avoid this Tier 4 pricing increase by trading our current equipment this December. By trading our equipment, we can avoid the price increases because they do not apply in this calendar year. So it's a nice opportunity for us. By avoiding this increase in price, the fiscal court will probably save approximately $30,000 off the sale price, and that's right off the top. It's a 15 to 20% increase for 2014, and we'll be able to manage that sale price at about a $30,000 reduction. Also, as part of this lease agreement, which I was adamant about, most golf course companies like Jacobson only offer a 2-year lease. Well, I ask for 3. And in demand, but I ask very, very nicely, we're going to need a 3-year warranty. And we got it. So we have a very strong relationship with this company, and Jacobson values that warranty at about $10,000 to $12,000 a year. So I was very excited to see that. In 2007, I'm going to go all the way back to 2007 when we wrote our first lease agreement with Jacobson and its subsidiary at that point in time, Midwest Golf and Turf. It was determined at that time that it was necessary to do a leasing structure for our maintenance equipment. I had never seen, respectfully, I had never seen equipment as in as bad a shape as we had at the time before we wrote this lease. As you all know, some of you being farmers, we didn't have one piece of equipment that had less than 2,000 hours on it, and we use it every day. We're open 8 months, and we use this equipment every single day. And the conditions of our golf course were under, our rough areas were never graded. When the golf course was constructed, even the rough areas are usually graded on construction with golf courses. Our rough areas weren't. Purchasing one piece of equipment at a time would not do us any good. We needed a full fleet at that point in time, so Judge Clark and I decided that was the best idea forward to write the lease agreement. The new equipment was traded, and we received this equipment. In 2011, we were in need of new rough units. So rather than purchasing those rough units and using the county's capital, we got 2 new rough units. We refinanced the original lease so we didn't have to trade out a whole group of equipment. We paid down some of the capital because we get the state pricing being a municipality. That's a very positive step forward for us. We rolled in the new lease to the old, and we were able to save an exorbitant amount of money year on top of year. In doing so, we were able to reduce the lease payments by $10,000 in 2011. That's year on top of year, and again avoid that capitalization. The 2000 lease was extended, and it became a 7-year leasing agreement. Now the recommended shelf life on all maintenance equipment industry-wide, whether you lease it or you buy it, everybody in the industry will tell you after 7 years, you better trade your equipment. Most most upper tier golf courses that I've been associated with in the past have trade their equipment every 3 years. So they're bringing in new equipment every 3 years. As stated before, the price increase that we're going to supposedly that's going to be passed to us will be next year. So the 2007 lease that we accumulated came to the cost of about $48,089 a year. The proposed lease that I have in front of you is based on $54,828 a year. That is a increase of about $16,000 a year based upon what we're paying now, but as you can see, it's only an $1,100 increase from our original lease 7 years ago. So the encouraging thing about our partner Jacobson that I'm so thrilled about was the idea that we are getting basically 2011 pricing in 2014. So we have really experienced no heavy increase in pricing. And the technology has improved. So now we feel like that moving forward, instead of walk mowing greens, we're going to go to a riding green system. And here's where I think that the operational influences will be to our advantage. Our payroll. Due to the practice of walk mowing greens, which we do now, it takes 5 employees to walk mow greens every morning. And that is on a daily basis. We operate during our season with 11 to 13 employees. We're now going to move to we're now proposing to move to a riding system using 2 greens mowers, which will reduce our especially our weekend labor from 5 to 6 employees down to a maximum of 4, and hopefully 3 will be able to use that on the weekend, because we use a structure called mow and go on the weekends where we mow our greens and we try to leave by 9 o'clock. So our efficiency goes up. So therefore we're going to need less employees. It has been determined that we can eliminate at least 2, possibly 3 seasonal positions by going to this program. Now, what does that do for us? Decreases our payroll opportunity that we had, decreases some liability, and overall it makes us more efficient. So one of the requirements of writing a new lease that was passed to me by the judge's office was try to find me some cost savings, and I've listed 2 others. Fuel savings. Even though the equipment per unit is more expensive initially, we have less of it. So therefore, we have less units to fill and use. Even though our greens mowers are smaller, we had 5 of them. We're going from 5 to 2. The approximate savings on fuel is unknown due to the indeterminate prices of oil-based products. You know, we've experienced an influx in fuel costs that are completely out of our control. I do have some figures for you here, just because I'm kind of a hawk on gas prices. Again, that doesn't... It's not irritating at all to pay $4 a gallon of gas at some point in time. But our gas price in 2007, we spent $20,000 on fuel, $20,755. Using 2012 numbers, because 2013 is not yet complete. I can project, but I might as well just use the 2012 numbers. We were at 33,512. Used just about the same amount of gallons of fuel, but that was the price increase on the fuel per gallon. So as you can see, and all of you understand the fluctuation in fuel price. However, we do feel we can save some fuel as well by having fewer pieces of equipment. So and again, we pride ourselves, and I think that the Treasurer's Office will comply with me on this. We don't waste money out there. We do the best job we can to conserve every nickel we get. And one of the things that's adamant coming from the judge's position is that we are responsible with the tax money here in the county. Our equipment repair is another area that we feel very strongly about. In 2006, when we had our old equipment, before we wrote the lease, we had $36,000 of equipment repair. Okay? When I got to Battlefield in 2007, I couldn't handle that number. That was a waste. Last year's equipment repair number was $8,300. An incredible drop in expense there, from 8,300 to 36,000 comparably. And that number's gone down year after year after year after year. So our exposure to equipment repair and cost for the next 3 years, it's expected to be minimal. Very, very minimal, barring some catastrophe. That would be unknown. But in summary, signing a new lease agreement comes at my highest recommendation. Proper tools, as you all know, who have anything to do with the outdoors, are essential to maintaining our quality experience. And you have all the information at your fingertips there. In the private market, we all have costs passed on to us by vendors. When things like these compliance issues come about, we just have to kind of grin and bear it and do the best we can. By acting now, this month, we can lose the exposure to that Tier 4 compliance issue, and I think we can protect our financial bottom line for the next 6 years, and run lean and mean. And consolidation, being lean, having few moving parts, staying small is my operational strategy. I don't believe in doing anything big or extravagant unless it's absolutely necessary. And at our golf course, I have not seen it yet. So I will field any questions concerning the lease information at this time.
Question on, you're in a rush for us to sign an agreement on this contract, and why wasn't it brought to us at an earlier time where we could have time to?
I was given it December the 1st, and this is the first. This was the first available court meeting, December the 10th.
He's given what?
The opportunity for the Tier 4 compliance
Been
issue.
working on this for 2 months and finally negotiated down to get this kind of contract.
How many other contractors was there that was involved? Was it just Jacobs?
Just one. Mm-hmm.
It's 296,000, that's the total
Yes, sir. That's the sale price on the equipment. Yes, sir.
payment, $9,000 some dollars a month, that's $110,000 a year. This is a 5-year
6
deal?
months. 6 months period,
A
Mr.
year.
Barger.
I'm sorry?
6 months. 6 month payment schedule.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir. The figure is on page 2 per year. It will be a proposed $54,000, $828 per year.
And that payment's not due until May of 2014, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The monthly payment will be $9,100 a month. That is on your $9,138.58. That's on your quotation on page 3 in yellow.
You know, if you're gonna run a business, you gotta invest in equipment, you gotta have good stuff, but our business really is really not that good. It's not, bottom line, is not too much to brag about at this point in time. My experience on these fair market value leases, and I've been burnt by them in the past. At the end of the fair market lease, the owner comes in and assesses the equipment. It has to be in a certain condition, and for them to take it back, and a lot of times they'll find so much wrong with it to get it back into fair market condition that it costs you a small fortune to get them taken off your hands. And so I'm leery of fair market leases just because of that. What's the difference in the dollar cost option lease?
Well, basically, you're locking in your price at the end of the lease. We have a balloon payment on our current lease of $24,000, meaning that's what we would pay at the end of the lease. So it's kind of locked in. Financing institutions, I agree with you wholly. You're right. Using a fair market value lease is at the discretion of the people who are evaluating the equipment. One of our strategies is to make sure that our equipment can roll off the lot at the end of the lease period and be used by somebody else right then. So we inspect our equipment daily, and I am so pleased, and to Mr. King's point, the reason I'm using our vendor here is because our strategy at Battlefield is to create partners. And Jacobson and Wolf Creek Company, our new partner, is our partner. And they are going to give us the best opportunity they can. That's guaranteed. And I'm going to mention something else. Our assistant superintendent that we replaced this year left last year and went to work for Wolf Creek Company because Wolf Creek was so impressed with how we maintained our equipment and the condition that was in. So speaking to your point about fair market value leases, I agree. And I think, and you're exactly right. The only strategy we have toward that is to be as responsible as we can, work as hard as we can, and make sure that our equipment is in the same shape, considering the time it was used at the end of the lease as it was before.
But you have to hire people that come in at, at relatively low wage scales, so you're depending on them to take care of the equipment and
Well, our superintendent's pretty savvy. Tony Kidd's pretty good. He and I work very closely together, and I have complete confidence in him to get around this equipment. I really do. And I have confidence in our partner, Wolf Creek, who gives us, and Brian Powers and Dewey Williams, who was our assistant superintendent, who's our field representative now for maintenance. They do I've been in the business for almost 15, 18 years now, and I've never seen the support that we get from this company that we get at Battlefield. Yes, sir.
Another question is, you said on assumptions of the employees that you'd reduce.
Mm-hmm.
As setting and making decisions on spending taxpayers' money on a project as the golf course, and knowing that if it wasn't for the taxpayers, then probably the golf course would go under. And when we include the taxpayers' dollars into it, and on assumptions it may happen, I'd like to see us have a route that we have on paper that we will be cutting force back and saving in other areas. I know as leasing equipment, you said it costs $40-something thousand to maintain each year on the equipment that they had before. If you take $40,000 a year, then you're still probably going to be in these guidelines of leasing. I understand good equipment. We need good equipment. But the thing I would like to see us is be more informed on exactly. I know we get her statement, but this is the first time I think I've seen you up here since the last time we had a contract when we was doing the carts. To be more informed about what the golf course is doing, how fair are we going? I know that we can look at it and we can see some statements, but it's better to hear from the people that writes the statements because you have also a lot of things goes out of the golf houses.
It would be my pleasure to come to the court once a month and inform you about the goings on of the golf course. I love doing this. I believe in your magistrate packet, I give you a statement and a condition rounds report each month. And if you would like to come to my office at any time, or I can come to yours, or at any point in time, I would be happy to come here each month and give a statement of the progress on the course.
I'll take the blame for that, because with the detailed report that Clay gives us on a monthly basis, I think anybody can look at that and narrow it down to the exact penny of what they're spending, what they're bringing in, the rounds they're playing, the increase, the decrease on anything that's happening out there. And I just feel like he's too busy to come in here. He comes in on a quarterly basis, but we get those reports on a monthly basis, and they're probably as good as any report we get from any department in the county. And so I'll take the blame for him not coming in on a monthly basis, because I didn't think it was necessary. But if this court feels like he needs to come up here on a monthly basis and go over what he gives you, then I don't have a problem with it.
I think it's good to see the department's heads at least once a month, in the meetings, and because of questions we can ask, and at least we can maybe be aware of this before we're having to try to make a assumption to make a vote today, then where we could have had to take a little time to study it out ourselves, not knowing, not that it would have made any difference, but at least we would be more aware of, you know, as to questions we could ask, well, how many employees you gonna take off the payroll, how much? And we don't like cutting employees, because that's jobs we take away. But then again, we want to make the golf course run as you, I'm sure you are, as conservatives as it can. But then again, for us to making these decisions, we're just going on what we just been read in front of us today instead of studying it out. So, you know, that's all the questions I have.
One other question. You know, you're talking about a 3-year lease, but this is 72 month.
I think
72.
it's warranty, right? You're talking about the 2 or
The
3
3
years.
years
you're
of
talking
warranty.
about.
3 years of
3
warranty.
years warranty, but this is a 6-year lease, so we're
Yes.
leasing this equipment for 6 years.
Yes, sir.
So by year 5, that's when you start piling the hours up, and that's when the maintenance starts kicking in on these dudes.
It can, and in the past,
And that's a 6-year-old piece of equipment, and I don't know how they calculate that fair market value based on how many hours you're anticipating. And it's gonna have to be in pretty decent shape, or else you won't be able to afford to get rid of it.
that's correct.
'Cause I've been stuck with them leases.
Clay, why don't you tell them what kind of shape that the equipment we leased back in 7 is right now that we're getting ready to give back to Jacobson,
Well, I mean, they're taking all of it.
Okay.
And
with no
Was
strings
that
attached?
was it fair market lease then, or they're giving
no,
you?
no, I mean, they're taking our balloon payment.
Yeah.
They're eating that,
They're
for
not
lack of a
even
better
charging us
term.
that
Not even
because the
charging.
equipment's
Okay.
so good a shape.
and they're just taking it.
But if we was
And-
bidding it out to another company.
Greg, we tried to bid now, 6, 7 years ago, it doesn't work.
Well, I think everybody.
We get a
needs
good
fair.
company, a partner that we work with, and stick with them, and they do things that they don't do for a lot of other people.
You know, I can tell you with no reservation, if anybody else can get this deal, I would be shocked. We're getting 2011 pricing in 2014. I mean, I can show you the agreement that we paid for our rough units 3 years ago, and it's just about the same price. And if you'll look at the note I wrote in 2014, the lease agreement is an increase of only $6,739 per year based on the original 2007 lease. Now, if you take $6,700 and you amortize that over 7 years, that is far below the cost of inflation over a 7-year period. You're evaluating inflation at a 3% margin every year, $6,700. So you're looking at an inflationary tactic of way less than 2%. Now, where can you get a deal like that? So that where 7 years later, you're paying less than the rate of inflation, and not being exposed by any outside determinant factors. So I'm very pleased with the idea of having an opportunity of this nature. Now, to Magistrate King's point, I fully agree with you. Time in making decisions for tax money is my modus operandi as well. You have a responsibility to the people you represent, and you'd like to evaluate that. I concur with that. But I want you to evaluate that quickly.
Well, if you could get the gas at 2011 prices instead of 2014.
Well, Magistrate Holmes, I want you to use your authority to get us $1.87 a gallon that we had 5 years ago in January. Now use your authority to get that done. Now you can get about anything done from what I understand, right? So let's get that done.
I wish I could, and you'd be the first to get it. But I will.
Go ahead.
I will say this: you do give us reports, and they're very detailed. I appreciate that. But I tell you where I get my information. I go straight to the source. Clay can tell you. I'm there twice a month. I asked him how things are going. One time, the only time I've not been able to get a hold of him, he was in a meeting. And that's it. I'm there 2 times a month.
Yep.
I always go by and say, what's going on? How's all this doing? Well, some of us don't have the time others have, but I do. And I appreciate that. He's always answered everything I ever asked him.
Yes, sir.
Being concerned about running less equipment for longer hours? And
I did.
How it's gonna last?
I did because of the technology. I don't anymore. In golf, there's in our market, okay? Our market is not the country club market, okay? And one of the things that I have been proud of, and that Judge has really, and the people of this county can thank Judge Clark. I've been wanting to raise prices, okay? He wants the people of the county to have a quality product for a very affordable price. Well, if you have good greens, if you can find your ball in the rough, and you can get around the golf course, ask Craig, right, Craig? If you can get around the course, find your ball, and the greens are really good, people are going to come play if the weather lets us. Okay? So, we didn't have a 15 reel blade that I felt like we could get the green conditions with 7 years ago. Now we do. Now we have a structure that we can have a 15 reel blade which stands up the grass very nicely, and it reduces the amount of travel time. And I was very careful about choosing this piece of equipment. I even used a prism out on the golf course green, on the putting greens, to see if the turf was standing up at the same rate it was with the walk mowers, because I'm snobby. I like to walk mow greens. I came from a private country club. We walk mowed greens. That's what I want to do. But this piece of equipment, this Tri-King greens mower, I'm very comfortable with it. We've trialed it. The superintendents have trialed it, and I'm very comfortable with it. But to your question, yes, I was concerned.
Did you look at a 3-year lease instead of a 6-year lease?
I did. You all would have choked on it. It was high. Very high. I brought 3 or 4 different leases to Judge Clark and let him look at it the 1st of December. And this was the least expensive. That gave us the best opportunity to maintain what we had without capitalization, meaning taking the county's general fund money and purchasing something. And this was our best opportunity as far as price, quality of product, and the term of the lease. And I have to tell you, Magistrate Hughes, lending is still difficult. Lending, especially for stuff like this, we're fortunate to not to have to go bouncing back and forth to several different banks. Sean Foy from Wells Fargo has been a great supporter of ours. Like I said, Wolf Creek and Jacobson. I would love to have only a 3-year lease like we do on the carts. I would love that. But it's expensive. And I feel confident that our staff and our team can keep this stuff going.
Well, we're beginning to save a lot of money just on the turf and stuff, because each year it's getting better and better and better. I mean,
Well-
we've come a long way.
Well, I had lunch with Mrs. Ginner and Judge Clark 7 years ago. I told Judge Clark I was going to stay 6 months. Okay? I'm still here. Okay? I walked out there on the golf course, rode around it, came back in, sat down with Benny Roop. Remember Benny? And I said, Benny, this is a fixer-upper. This
It was a goat trail.
It was the worst place I'd ever been. And now, go out in our market and ask people what they talk about, our tournaments we run, the conditions we have on a daily basis. And we almost got to break even last year. You know, we can't do anything about the weather. Nothing we can do. We can send people home and save $7.25 an hour, but that's all we can do. We can't do anything about the weather, and everybody is suffering. But I'm going to tell you, our golf course conditions are as good as anywhere, and we're a $25 municipality. You can't find golf course. I've been all over this country playing golf. You can't find golf course conditions much better. It's really nice. Something to be proud of.
We have an obligation to the residents of this county to provide the very best product, which I think, and since Clay's been here, we have. Compare the golf course to anybody's. to operate and maintain it in the least possible way with saving the most money, and that's exactly what we're doing. This is absolutely a great deal for the county and the residents of the county, whether you play golf or not, because we have a golf course. We have an obligation to maintain it in the very best possible way, and this is the way to do it, and that's why we have Clay as the pro.
I want to make one more statement, too, about the conditioning. Conditioning of the golf course has a tremendous amount to do with our tax base. Most of you might say, what do you mean by that? Okay. Who would live at our facility in those homes that we collect property tax on if the conditions weren't in good shape? You know, you take a 400-acre farm, you're going to pay taxes on the 400-acre farm. You subdivide that into 300 or 400 lots. You know, now the tax base changes incrementally.
There isn't one lot available.
There is, that's right.
Battlefield.
That's right. It is, I mean, it is almost completely built out except for a few of the private lots that private members own or private individuals own. And I don't think that we have one lot for sale out there except from the developer, except by individuals. And it's a nice place to live. I came into, the guy drove up yesterday, he goes, look, we're moving out here, we're buying that house up on the hill, we're going to buy a family membership. It's nice out here. And if our golf course was not maintained, I feel like a lot of those houses would be empty.
I had sent you on that subject, and I know we go on things all day, but I had a few residents around the lakes complaining with the growth that's up around the lakes.
Now, Greg, you and I have talked about that, and that's not on the agenda here, and I've talked to you about that.
I'm talking about taxpayers.
And we're doing it, but, you know, I'm not even going to go into it right now. That's not on the agenda. If you want me to put it on, we'll bring it up later. And Clay doesn't have anything to do with that anyway. That's my call.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Concerning the lease?
Well, you know, the golf course, and I like to think it's got untapped potential for paying its own way, but it's not there yet, and I don't know what kind of marketing we need to do to improve the number of members out there or increase the number of people playing. You know, do you have a marketing?
How many members do you have now, Clay?
Well, we have right at 200. I think we have 189 right now. We had some attrition from last month, and but
How many did you have when you came here?
90. The reason we only have 189 at this point in time is real simple. Nobody's coming out to buy memberships because they're not playing. They'll buy them in the spring. I've had several people come up to me and tell me, well, I'll see you in the spring. People don't keep playing golf through September. They just quit. They just stop playing. I mean, I have never seen a weather pattern like this. I mean, it rained all spring, rained all summer. Then we had 5 days of snow in November. Now, when has that happened? If global warming's going on, Madison County didn't get the news flash. Craig? Can you do anything about that?
Well, that rain, I guess.
Go over there and talk to people in the Middle East. Tell them to shove that weather over here.
I think we've come a long way.
Okay,
I've been here longer than most of you all, and we've come a long way. I had a lot of questions that you had in the beginning, but since Clay's come around, I see a big turnaround. Yeah, hopefully someday it will break even, but it's a form of entertainment. Same as Parks and Recreation. Some people don't play ball, some people play golf. I try, I can't. But I'm honest about it. So you can't give everybody exactly what they want.
Well, we have several services
it
that are,
provides an opportunity for a lot of residents to do something, Larry, that they normally wouldn't have.
Absolutely.
and we have several services that are more expensive than the golf course. So,
Well, we've hashed this around long enough. I'm gonna move we approve this.
I got a second?
I'll second. We gotta have it no matter what. I mean,
Exactly.
I do have a concern that we get it here at the end of the lease. I wish we had more time to talk about it, or a month or two to look it over, but we don't, and we gotta have it. I second.
I mean, you all, okay.
You ready to call, Judge?
Yes.
Master King?
I vote no on kind of no more contracts in an
Master Barger?
untimely manner.
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you all very much, Clay. Thanks for
I have
the
one more item.
presentation. I know you
Okay.
did.
In August, we terminated our mechanic due to due to lack of performance and attendance at work. We did not replace that position in September, October, or November. We have a young man I'd like to bring on as our third full-time employee, which we've always had, at a lesser rate of employment. Our mechanic was making nearly $20,000, and I think that Judge Clark and I have wanted to start him at $17,500. And his name is Chris Kidd. He'll report to me, and he'll be our third full-time maintenance employee. We always have had three. And with the court's approval, I would like approval for bringing this young man on. He has a tireless work ethic, and he is exactly what we need, in my view, to help us be that third full-time employee that we can use, and he has been approved by our superintendent.
Second.
Who is he?
Chris Kidd?
Chris Kidd.
Chris Kidd is a young man from Berea, and he is, I think he's around 20 years old, and he is a fine young man, a magnificent worker.
Comes from a good family.
Very good boy.
Master King?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Yes. Thanks, Clay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And I am available for discussion on any topics. Once again, if Judge Clark finds it necessary for me to come to court on a monthly basis, I will be pleased to do so. And thank you all very much.
Thanks, Clay. All right, moving on. Ordinance 1310, this is amend the ordinance 1112 on the precinct boundary that we talked about last time. Kenny, you want to go over this real briefly again for us?
This was a clerical error in the road name change that would have, instead of clearing up a line, a magisterial line, it would have caused another sawtooth and put just a narrow one street, half of a street of people in one magisterial district and everybody else lived around in another. So we like to get this cleared up. The maps are at state board and we're working on to get them approved.
We talked about a resolution, but Francette really caught it and talked to Mark, and because it was part of an ordinance, we need to amend that particular ordinance. So on Kenny's recommendation, I'd like to approve first reading of ordinance 1310, changing the boundary lines.
So moved.
Second.
How many precincts you think we're going to end up with?
We're going to eliminate 10, so we'll have 46, and that's for the combination of combining several and eliminating.
When will they take effect?
This election.
It will take effect this May. When the change in the precincts will be this May election, they don't technically take effect until State Board and LRC looks at our maps and everything and approves what we've done. But we sent everything up. We went back and got the maps. LRC wanted some more descriptors put on those maps so they could more easily understand the boundary lines. So State Board has looked at our descriptions. That should all be fine. We get those maps back up there. We should be next week. You'll be done, finished, finally, after 3 years of working on it. Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. I have several reappointments that I'd like the court's permission to do. First one is I'd like to reappoint Johnny Webb to the North Madison County Sanitation District.
So moved.
Second.
Master
I know
King,
Johnny, he's a good friend of mine. I like him.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Marcella Hayden, North Madison County Sanitation District. Been there forever. You want me to go into this?
No.
Does a great
So moved.
job.
Second.
Shows up to all the meetings.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Madison County Utility Board, I'd like to reappoint Wanda Pennington. Wanda's
So moved.
been there forever.
Second.
Magistrate King?
Yes.
Magistrate Barger?
Yes.
Magistrate Hughes?
Yes.
Magistrate Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Yes. Robert Farmer, Madison County
Moved.
Planning
Second.
Commission.
Approve Bob, too.
Been there forever.
Yep. Magistrate King?
Yes.
Magistrate
Yes.
Barger?
Yes.
Magistrate Hughes?
Yeah.
Magistrate Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Yes.
I think I got a yes from everybody.
Next is courthouse informational display monitors, and Chris here. Chris, you can kind of do the deal. Tom will come up in a minute. I guess Philip really came up with this idea, didn't he, Chris?
This was Philip's idea, that's exactly
So
right.
we have to give Philip the credit. But,
Can we take it out of your budget?
I'll give them people complaining your phone number.
Thinking, but as you all know, every time you walk out the back door, walk in the front door, there's somebody standing there asking you where to go to get to someplace in the courthouse or the annex. And Chris has looked at the scenario and made a excellent proposal on what we could do to streamline that and really update the annex and the courthouse. And Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, this was Philip's idea, so all credit goes to him. But this is why I love working at the county, the partnerships you have. Philip came to me and said, hey, you know what? How many people are lost in the courthouse? They come in, they don't know that to get a disabled parking permit, you go to motor vehicles. They end up over here in Francett's office, or they end up down at his office. Lots of confusion, and everybody in this room knows that. They spend lots of time here and see the people doing that. So the great part about it was, here comes Philip and says, what can we do? Me being me, said, hang some TVs on the wall, put some computers behind them. We can network them across the entire county network so that there's TVs in every county building, and they all can share the same information and show all these great things. We can probably broadcast AC 46 across it, those kinds of things, the information that gets displayed there. Great idea. Then I turn to my guy and say, Ryan, and say, okay, now how do we make this work? He sits down at his computer with Google Shape Up and 3D draws the courthouse buildings that you see here on the screen, which I couldn't do, which is why I have people around me that do stuff I can't do. So you can see here, these are going to be beneficial. And my idea was to color code these. We're actually going to number them too in case there's colorblind people. That came up in a conversation with Tom and I about maps and Megan as well, about how some of the colors don't appear correctly to people that are colorblind. So we're going to do colors and numbers so that there's no confusion. And what we try to do is take the top topic there and then talk to Kenny and the people inside the offices about what are the specific things they come to your office for. So you can see their motor vehicles, renew your motor vehicle license, transfer your motor vehicle, disabled parking, those kinds of things. So hopefully when they come into the front lobby here in the courthouse, of course they got that dot, or you are here, they can kind of take a gander at the stuff on the right here and be like, oh yeah, I'm here to pay my vehicle taxes, and that's in motor vehicles, that's the yellow. All right, I go right here to the left. So hopefully we can reduce some of the confusion. And another kind of project that's kind of underway, we haven't really gotten too far with it, it goes hand in hand with this, is a lot of you have seen 311s or 411s for Lexington and larger cities and counties. It was Kenny's idea, came to me and said, hey, how do we solve this problem? Lots of confusion on who do you call. We have people that call the courthouse for district court issues or family court issues, or they call Kenny's office about a driver's license. Lots of confusion. There's so many phone numbers in the phone book that aren't necessarily labeled very well, can't help people do it. So that's something I'm working on too, is we're going to go through the phone book with the company that actually prints those and puts the information in and say, this is what you need to say, because what they do is they take what's on the bill. So a lot of the times you'll see Madison, and if 624-4700. Well, what is that? Nobody knows what that is. So hopefully we can get that to help reduce the confusion. Hopefully can reduce some of the trees that we have to do in the phone system that a lot of you probably hear complaints about. Trying to direct people in the right place. If we can get people to call the right number, we don't have to have as many trees. So the idea would be to have the 311 number with basically what you see here. For the judge executive's office, here are the things you do. Here's the number you call. You can press 1 to be transferred or whatever. Kind of go through that list to kind of help direct traffic, and this is playing right into it. These will be hanging in the first floor of the courthouse in the front. There'll be one in the back lobby in the courthouse as well, and there is going to be one, as of right now, in the annex. We figured most of the people that are coming to visit anybody in the annex are coming through the main entrance, so we will start there. We have a little bit of a difficulty dealing with the elevator shaft, how to get the power and the cables to the TV, so this will be our first run to kind of figure out how to get everything where it needs to be. But we already have the TVs. We took advantage of Black Friday, and bought those TVs while they were on sale. We got them for like $300, which was incredible. So we've already got most of the equipment on hand. The software we're still demoing. We haven't bought anything yet, but we'll be ready to buy here shortly. We're actually going to put a TV up and use the software, make sure it does what we want before we purchase it. So my goal is to be done by Christmas. I'm not so sure if I'll get that, but definitely by the first of the year, you'll see these hanging. You'll see the building plans, and then what you can do is you can make it modular. So there'll be lots of modules around the floor plan showing all kinds of different information. If people from the public want to display a flyer, instead of hanging a flyer, to give it to us digitally, and we can put it in a block on the TV, those kinds of things. The cool part about the software is once you put the computer behind the TV, we actually turn the TVs on and off on the schedule. So nobody has to go up and actually turn these TVs off or turn them on. It's all done through the network. They're on and off, so you're not using more energy than we have to and those kinds of things, and nobody's responsible for turning them on and off. The only other idea that's out there, but I think it's going to be way too expensive, is we were talking about putting the mirrors across them, so when the TV's off, it just looks like a mirror, and when the TV's on, you can see through it. That was a little bit of a security issue that Philip had with a TV hanging right in the lobby of our buildings. We don't have much issue, but that's something I'm looking into, but it seems to be very expensive to do that, so they may just be hanging free. We'll just take our chances, I guess.
Speaking of expenses, Chris, kind of a total cost of the 3 TVs and installation?
Everything was looking to be less than $5,000. Of course, I got the TVs cheaper than I thought I would, and I got the software a little cheaper too when I went out and asked 4 or 5 people what the price was. You can buy it on Amazon, you can buy it direct. We can buy it from CDW for $420 a station, so every TV has to have a license for it. I was putting them at about $600 a pop. So I'm hoping that we can slide in at the $4,000 mark to put these out there.
And I want to add that our clerk, Kenny, has agreed to pay half the cost because it will benefit him as much as anybody.
This will save, you don't understand how much labor it will save, and from just because folks get in here and they go in a circle and they don't know where they need to be, and it's a constant interruption for everybody in these other offices because they're stopping to ask questions, which is natural. That's what folks are going to do, and then we need to help them get there. But we need to also give them an opportunity to, nobody wants to not know what they're doing. So we need, as much as we can educate the public as possible, the more they appreciate it,
How
the
you
more we
gonna do
get
it
done.
with just 3 TVs?
Just one in the front, one in the back, and then one in the annex. We haven't talked about putting them on every floor in the annex because everybody comes in that main entrance except if they come in the basement.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about.
That's the only thing.
Go in the basement,
And
miss it.
the beauty of it is you can actually split that. You can have one box in the building and put 4 TVs on it. But with this building, we were a little afraid to do that because coming in the back is a completely different view than coming in the front.
Right.
So this one we did 2. If Mike is interested and he thinks it helps his office, they can certainly purchase a TV or a license. We can talk about those things once we get.
Have a lot of inquiries.
Yeah, and if you look at his, most of the basement is sheriff's office, obviously. And they've denoted there real well with lines and stuff, where you pay your property taxes. That's the biggest thing. I mean, how many years have we been paying taxes in the basement of that building, and you still see them over here? So,
We inspect the motor vehicle, then they had to come over to the courthouse,
yep, and they don't know where to go.
and they had no idea where to
Yep.
go.
And you can tell them, hey, there's a TV hanging right on the steps as you come up. Take a look. It'll tell you exactly where to go. And the possibilities are endless because this software can take any kind of medium to show on the TV. So flyers and floor plans and all those kinds of things can be displayed up there. Closings and delays, those kinds of things can all be posted so the public are better informed.
I think the next step on this is directing people to the Hall of Justice and Family Court. We really need one outside that's the size of a billboard that.
I'm on it.
Folks just show up downtown and they don't know which building. It happens every day.
Sounds like a challenge.
Will you pay for that?
No, not yet. Well,
And I think we've had this conversation with Kenny. One of those side blocks on the side of the floor plan will say, and we'll have to get with Mark very specific, if you're doing this, you go to the family annex, which is across First Street. If you're doing this, it's up 1 block. Because that's the biggest confusion is they think courthouse. This is the courthouse. They don't know that there's.
Well, yeah, and Mark would know exactly what to say there.
Sure, I walked in with some people this morning that were doing 2 or 3 different things at the same time, and they were going to several different buildings, so this is a great idea. Are you gonna have the other floors of the annex building?
Yes, we just,
Shown
yeah. The problem is when you try to make them 3D, there was some issue, Ryan had an issue, but they will all be done and rotate through on the first floor, so you'll be able to see them. Actually, I think we're gonna steal the idea from McAllister's Deli. If you've ever been in there, their TVs are hanging vertical. So we're gonna do that as well, and then stack those floor plans one on top of another, so maybe they'll all be shown at one time.
I don't know who come up with the idea of putting numbers on, but that was the question I was gonna ask, because I am colorblind.
Tom deals with it with maps all the time, and is that, I think are you colorblind?
Blues are
Yeah,
red.
I don't know if that's paisley or purple. I'm told it's this color. So after a discussion, it was like we better do colors and numbers just so there's no confusion, because that's an issue that's out there.
I might suggest that you put the highest user room at the top of the list.
Yep.
More than likely, most people come to go to motor vehicles.
Yep,
That's where most of the traffic is. Now, should probably be at the top.
it's a good idea. Reshuffle
That way
the.
you don't have to look for it.
Yeah.
It knows what
Yeah.
most people look for anyway.
Yep, that's a
That's
good idea.
the good thing about this. Chris can change it on a moment's notice from his desk. You don't have to come up and talk about it and put letters on a thing. It's live. And
Yep.
We don't need to vote on this. We just wanted to make a presentation to you all and paper and the general public, show them what we're continuing to provide and upgrade services for people.
Yep.
And Kenny, we appreciate your
you're very welcome. I'm glad,
help with
we're
this,
doing it.
but it's just a great idea. And Philip, thank you very much.
We like it, so now you can take credit for it.
Let's get them up and make sure they're working for
Throw a big A on him, Scott.
You gonna be wanting to put them out the battlefield next?
We got them out there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is IT Department personnel. And Chris, if you want to stand, Tom, you want to come up with Megan? Chris, you want me to explain a little bit about what's happening?
I'll let you start it. And
We had an employee, a backup, working with Tom. That individual, Clay, was working 3 days, alternating 3 days and 2 days with Carl and Tom. And the workload has really increased. Tom's taking a lot more on. He's doing all the addressing and things now. So we felt like it was important to get a full-time person in there. In the meantime, we were very interested in giving Clay that position, but Bria sneaked in and offered him a whole lot more money, and he is now in Bria in the GIS department. So we kind of lost out on that, but Linda and Chris and Tom, they interviewed about 5 or 6 people and have made this recommendation, came talk to me about it. And, of course, I asked them to ask Megan to come in to answer any questions you all might have. And I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. She's a dynamo. She's a really special person that will really add to the office. So, Megan, you want to step up, and I'll let you tell a little bit about yourself.
What does anybody want to know? I'll answer any question you've got for me, really.
So, what have you been doing?
Right now, I'm a contractor with Kentucky Utilities in Danville with their mapping department. I went to Eastern twice. My second time through Eastern, I finished my bachelor's in geography and got their certificate in GIS. And really, I'm one of those lucky people who really loves what she does. It's not a job that I got. I really love doing it. I love thinking about it. I love thinking, oh, what can I do with this map? Or what can I do with this map? Or how could I solve this problem looking at the data? And so when I got wind of this opportunity, I thought, oh, I'd met Tom before. I'd been to the office and I'd seen what they do. And I thought, oh, that sounds fantastic. I've got to jump on that. So
Okay, I'll open it up
Round
for
up.
questions. Annie?
We'd like to see you move to Madison County eventually.
My timing is classic, because in September, we moved to improve my commute to Danville. And then 3 months later, this opportunity opens up. It was just a really unfortunate accident there. As soon as I got the opportunity, I would really just turn around and start looking for a place, probably in Richmond again. I lived here for 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bria's a good place too.
Oh, is it a competition? Okay. Well,
No further questions and motion on their recommendation.
Motion that,
Hire Megan.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger.
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Megan, welcome to the crew. Welcome
Thank
to the
you.
family.
it's good to be here.
Glad to have you. And I'm sure you'll enjoy working with Chris and Tom. They're exciting people. Okay, let's see, judge's report. Couple of things, really great announcement. My friend Tony Wilder, Commissioner of Local Government, wrote me a personal letter. The announcement was made, but we haven't got a contract yet, that we had been awarded a $75,000 grant for a recreational interpretive trail project at Battlefield. This will pretty much, with our match, complete the whole first phase of the Battlefield that we started on 9 years ago. We're really working hard to get to starting on the interior of Pleasant View and the outbuildings. Philip's working and Cheryl's working with the Heritage Council and Transportation. And this will add to that, and hopefully we can put a few more trails in down through Churchill's Draw. So it's been a long, interesting journey, but it's accumulation of about 600 acres of the original Battlefield at an investment of about $6.5 million. So it's been a real challenge, but it's worked with partnerships and everybody working together. So I want to thank everybody.
Judge, you know what I've always thought would be a great idea is have, not to the same extent, but some information on the golf holes about the park itself and just kind of the basic history of, because a lot of people that aren't from here might golf and see what's going on, then take the opportunity to actually visit the park as well. I don't know what the cost would be on something like that, but it'd be a neat thing to somehow incorporate the two together, the history with the recreation.
Clay and I have talked about taking some of those out there. The cost of it right now.
It's a good idea, though, Mark. Thanks. Next, the Chamber Awards Banquet is tonight. Reception 6 to 7, dinner's at 7, and then the awards takes place be at Keene Johnson Building on the campus, and they always have a huge crowd. Was over at Berea's Chamber Awards Banquet last Thursday night, and entertained by J.P. Pennington, local from Berea, and they had 175 attendees that came. It was the biggest crowd ever. Sandy and David did a wonderful job. It just went off without a hitch. Food was excellent, and everything went great. The Richmond Parade, as we know, was postponed until this Friday night, and that will happen at 7 o'clock. We hope everybody will come downtown and see that. I think the weather's going to cooperate a little bit more. And the holiday hours for Battlefield Museum, they'll be closed Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, but open 10 to 4, Monday through Friday, and Saturday, 10 to 2. And Christmas at Irvington this year is December 14th from 6 to 8, and Sunday, December 15th from 2 to 4. So that'll be very interesting, too. We'd like to invite everybody to come out and enjoy these festive opportunities dealing with, having to do with Christmas, bring the families. So we're all looking forward to it. That's all I have in the judge's report. We'll go to comments from department heads. Anybody? Carl, do you have something?
That we stopped making the paper packets for you guys, and it's now on your pads. And we've done the same thing with City of Richmond, so let me know if you're having trouble with that. I know this morning Chris found that it was there, and then all of a sudden it was gone, but he got it put back on there. So we're gonna stop doing the packets, which will save a ton of paper and time and all that. But if you need a paper copy, obviously, let me know and we'll get you one, especially of like the graphs or something, okay?
It's just taking us a few days, but it's getting better every week. Anybody else, any other department heads? If not, comments from magistrates. Greg?
Don't have none. Thanks.
Roger?
Fill you in on the ferry. Of course, it's been closed now for 3 days just because of the high water, and it's terribly high, higher than I thought it would be. But got a little good news, better than it has been. We've been told that our contract is in the mail for our $600,000 grant. And the problem there is it's took them so long to approve this that 2014, January 1st, emissions requirements on engines are changing drastically. We're talking thousands of dollars difference for the engines that we wanted to put in that boat. So that puts us behind the 8 ball again on the money. So we may have to go to one engine, and I hate to do it. I think that the 2-engine thing that they do with a lot of the other towboats works out good. You run one engine one day and one the next. Maintenance is cut in half. The other thing is you can generate your electrical power off that other engine if you need to. It can be used as a water pump, you know, where we have to wash the deck off with water and whatever.
How much money, Roger, for two different?
Well,
ones?
the two engines difference because of the emissions
What
is probably gonna be $50,000-$75,000 difference.
You weren't using Toyota engines on it?
No, we use a Ford farm tractor commercial engine, 4-cylinder. But the technology has come so far, you know, these things, you can't even start this engine from the controls. You have to go to the engine room and start it. That way if there's a leak or a knock or something, you're there to hear it. If you're out there in the cabin and you start this engine and there's a problem, you don't know it till it's too late. So.
Now, it's probably 4-stroke too, isn't it?
Yeah, but, you know, we gotta do what we gotta do to get it. I don't think we're gonna ask for any more money. We've already told them that their estimates is 900 and some thousand. We're only getting 600,000. We figure we can build one for 750, but if it goes above that, we just told them we probably just won't build it at all. But we're gonna try to get the money and see what we can do and see if we can make it work. But, we're better off than we were. At least we got the money coming. That's all we got, Judge.
Thanks, Roger. Bill Ray?
At the last KCO convention, they were talking about the coal industry, how it's dying in eastern Kentucky, and they had this big solar conference there yesterday in Pikeville. But what's going to impact us is the LGEA funding, and I meant to look how much that is on our budget, and are we anticipating yet any decrease in that, Judge?
It really isn't major anyway,
not a
Billy
whole-
Ray. We kind of save it up for a rainy day, and then when we've got a bigger project, of course, that money has to be used for rock and blacktop. So we just kind of build it up, and then we'll use it as need be, but,
About 250,000.
yeah, and it won't impact it that much. Yeah, it's gone way down. I mean,
Yeah, and it's even gonna keep going
Yeah.
down. Isn't it? That's all.
Larry?
That was an all-day event with Congressman and the governor, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Seemed like they're well satisfied in what they're trying to do. I compliment them for getting together instead of playing politics. But I thought it was good. But I don't have anything, just glad to be here, Judge.
Glad you're here. Comments from the audience? Anybody? I'd like to come up. Craig?
Advisory board meeting is tomorrow afternoon at the Perkins Building. The Chemical Destruction Citizens Advisory Board at 1:30 at Perkins, if anybody's interested
Okay.
in that meeting.
Keep us up to date, Craig.
Good deal. All right. Next court meeting, going to change it a little bit because of the proximity to Christmas. We're going to have it on Monday, December 23rd at 9 o'clock in the morning. And if
9.
I said 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Might ought to make yourself a note, Judge.
I just said 9. Okay. But if anybody's got any problem with that, let me know, and we'll move it around if we have to. That's it. Motion to pay the claims and approve the transfer. So moved.
Second.
Magistrate King?
Yes.
Magistrate Barger?
Yes.
Magistrate Hughes?
Yes.
Magistrate Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Yes, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Yes.